Hey guys, Jim here. We're going to take a look at a Todd Fischer Archangel. And this time it's not a guest blade like it was the first time. This time it's my knife, and I really am overly excited about this. Before I go off too much about the knife and the story behind this particular variation, I do want to give you some nice HD close-ups, the beauty of this knife. First off, you'll notice it is one of his double bolstered Archangels, not one of the single bolstered or obviously full scale versions. He does these in a lot of different ways. Mine also has the skull crusher on the back, coming out of the titanium backspacer. And as I always do, I went for tip-up carry as opposed to the standard tip-down carry that he was doing for quite a while. And I want you to listen to this action. Listen to this. Oh, it's truly, truly a breathtaking knife. Now, I've had my order in for quite a long time, and not long after I got my order in, I was able to do a guest blade because of Justin Laffer. He sent me his Archangel, and that was actually the first time I had ever had one in my hands. I'd only ever seen pictures, and I saw this really awesome aggressive harpoon style blade, nice deep belly, beautiful recurve. And I said, oh, I gotta have one of these. What I didn't realize until I held the one that Justin owned in my hands was how small the knife really was. Because, you know, when you just read the specs that it's a 3.5-inch blade, you know, you expect something more along the lines of this. You know, like my Orion MGT from Kirby Lambert. It's a big, substantial knife, very thick, comes out into the hand a bit. But as you see side by side, and especially not counting in the skull breaker, which was how Justin's was configured, the Archangel is a lot smaller overall because if you take a look here, you see there is a lot of space left over in the handle from the blade. So there's a lot of room there. And what Todd is doing is he is maximizing the tip, comes right to the edge of the handles. Again, you don't want to count in the skull breaker. That's an extra piece. So he's actually made an extraordinarily compact 3.5-inch. As another comparison, put it up next to my RJ Martin. My RJ is also a 3.5-inch flipper. The RJ doesn't look a lot bigger, but it is just a little bit. Bring it now butt to butt without the skull breaker. And again, now you see there's a really, really big difference. And that was why I decided I had to have the skull breaker on mine so that it filled up the hand a little bit more. It's actually a lot closer in size now to my Brad Southard Custom, my Tarsus. So these are really, really similar, but you'll see how chunky the Archangel is. And now because of having the skull breaker on there, it fills up the hand a lot more, and it feels a little bit more substantial. So I actually like that a lot, having that on there. So like I said, I've had my order in for quite a while, and it was only when I went up and visited him. I was going to visit his son, Frank. A lot of you guys know that Frank and I are good friends now. We're doing a collaboration knife together and all kinds of neat stuff. And it was when I went there to visit Frank, we went over to see his dad. And that particular day happened to be Todd's wife's birthday. And for one of her birthday gifts, Todd created her own Archangel. And she's already got a whole bunch of knives, obviously, but he wanted to make her a special one, and he did it in presentation grade mother of pearl. Well, I handled it, I fell in love with it, and I kind of sort of mentioned, oh man, I would really kind of dig something like that. Not expecting that he would do it because I figured he was just going to keep that one piece special for her. He says, well, if you want, you know, I'm nowhere near getting to yours yet, so it's okay if you want to change the materials. I'm still a couple months away from doing it. I said, yeah, if you don't mind, yeah, I'd love to do that. Instead of having carbon fiber in there to go into the presentation grade mother of pearl, hell yeah. So only 2 of these exist, and Todd said that he actually loved how hers came out and how mine came out so much that he's thinking about making a personal carry version for him in the same thing. And what he also did, just to kind of make it pop a little bit more, to show you separation between basically two white materials. You know, a satin finished titanium has a whitish look to it than against the mother of pearl. What he decided to do was a black spacer in between, so it really helps make that scale pop. Now, for those that don't know what presentation grade is, presentation grade means, number one, it is going to be free of any defects, cracks, veins, ripples, or imperfections. Number two, it's going to have an extraordinary display of orient. Orient is that iridescent display of color that comes out of mother of pearl naturally. And number three, it means that both sides, the front side and the back side of the material, are completely smooth and blemish free. And I got to tell you, it's worth the extra money. It was a few extra $100 to upgrade into this, and so totally worth it. Both sides look tremendous. This was meant to be a presentation style knife for me, definitely a dressier style knife. But being an Archangel, I knew it was something that I could carry every day. I could use, I could cut with it, and I don't have any issues. So it's a pretty knife that will live up to pretty much anything you could throw at it. He generally uses CPM 154 steel. Don't forget now from the first video that Todd is a guy that does everything himself. He even forges his own Damascus. So it was really an interesting experience when I got to go into his shop. It is amazing. He's got these two amazing lathes. One is probably older than he is. It is just this insane high-quality lathe. He's got a wire EDM. He's got CNC. He's got, obviously, all of his grinders and presses and everything. It is one of the more impressive shops that you're ever likely to see. It's not tremendously huge because, again, it's one guy. It's not a team of people that are working in his shop. And everything is, you know, just what he needs. He could literally make anything in his shop. And you can see the experience that he's got just by knowing the machines that he wants to have in his shop, having everything at his disposal. And then you look at the quality of the work that he's doing here, and this is one of my favorite features right here. The way that this is so perfect, from the titanium to the steel to the liner to the other bolster. And then when you close it up, you get that same feeling here, which I've never really seen anybody do. So he does a relief right here in his bolster, and it perfectly matches with the flipper tab. Now, I don't recall if the one I reviewed before that was Justin's, if it had serrations or not, or jimping, I should say, on the flipper tab or not, but it certainly does feel fantastic. Nice jimping up top. Even though it's a smaller knife, it fits my hand well, and I feel locked in with the jimping. He has very aggressive jimping. It's not to the point where it's going to, you know, hurt you, but you feel your skin grab into it when you grab a hold of the knife. Sorry about that little mark there. Everything is done to extreme perfection. Great inlay here of that mother of pearl. You really don't feel it. You run your fingers across from bolster to scale to bolster, and you really can't tell that it's, you know, more than one piece of material. Great fluidity throughout. You'll notice that every facet of this knife is completely finished. The inside of the back spacer, which is also, by the way, where he signs his name. See if I can get light in there again. There we go. Everything is perfectly finished. All of the edges are just as satin as the blade is, as the flats on the blade. And then you'll notice the beautiful jeweling inside of the titanium liners. There is not a single part of this knife that goes untouched. You'll notice also the lock face here on the blade, perfectly finished. There's nothing rough looking about it. Everything is thoroughly hand massaged. And when I talked to Todd just the other day, you know, I've had a really wonderful chance to get to know him. You know, he's a very quiet, very private individual, not the kind of person that really puts himself out there a lot. So I feel fortunate to have forged somewhat of a friendship, at least I consider him a friend. because he's got so much incredible knowledge. And I asked him the other day about, the fact that he has a CNC and how much he really relies on it. And he says, you know what? He goes, I'm lucky if my CNC does 10% of my work. He goes, it's just something that's there, that's a tool that I can use to speed up the process. Obviously, he can make the knife completely 100% by hand without the aid of any smart tools. He says, but it's just smarter for me. It gets the knife in the customer's hands a little more expeditiously. It's something that reduces that wait time, even though he does have a very long wait list. It's something that aids him, but that's all it is. It's something that works as a beginning step for him. Everything on this entire knife is done by hand. I love how he sculpted the pocket clip too. I mean, this is, when you're paying this kind of money, you expect this level of work. No spring clip, nothing. There's not a single inexpensive component on this knife. The back spacer I chose was the gear pattern, but I wanted it to be flush. He typically does the gear pattern where it stands up out of the frame, and it looks really great, looks very aggressive, but I knew I was going to be carrying this a lot. This is going to be one of my constant companions, so I was really looking for comfort there, and he knocked it out of the park. It looks fantastic. Again, it's almost impossible to tell between the back spacer and the titanium frames. Obviously here, close up and in HD, you're going to see the seam, but to your eye, you really don't see it. The skull cracker is very, very aggressive. It's actually has some sharp edges to it, so this is something that I really would not want to get cracked in the side of the head with, that's for damn sure. The attention to detail is just breathtaking. And this is the level of craftsmanship that you should expect when you pay this kind of money. This is where, I was talking to a friend of mine the other night, Mark, and, he's talking about, oh, there's this one knife that I really, really, really dig, and they're really hard to get, and this guy may be able to sell it to me, and he tells me the price. I said, dude, that is like 5 times the maker's price. He's like, yeah, but, it's exclusive and it's hard to get. I said, do you realize for less money, I have a completely hand-built Todd Fischer on the way to me with presentation-grade pearl and this and this and that, things that your knife that you're looking at doesn't have. The knife that he was looking at was simple, basic titanium liners, a carbon fiber scale over it. He had a little bit of Timascus on a little teeny bolster, and that's it. It was nothing that a number of other makers could not have made. Now, I'm not taking away from the fact that it was a really damn nice knife and something that I would like to own as well. But it was worth the $1,000 to $1,100 that the maker charged. It was not worth the money that it was going to be going for. And I said, if you'd stop overspending 3 to 5 times on the knives that you're buying, you could buy something like this. And we were also talking about Stan Wilson's. And this is kind of a related story because Stan is actually Todd's next door neighbor. And you guys have seen the video that I've done in Stan Wilson's shop. That's the level of making that you get at $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. Instead of taking, a knife that the maker made for $800 and some asshole decided, hey, I think this is worth $5,000 and start selling them for that, and idiots are out there paying that for a simple titanium knife that really isn't not at this level. So it really skews the market. And when you're paying, listen, this is just under $2,000 the way it sits. And granted, that is a tremendous amount of money for a small pocket knife. But when you realize that there is not a single solitary component on this knife that is not touched by hand, that is not, look at the shape of the bolsters. This is not just a standard slabbed off bolster or an angled bolster. He has completely curved this out, which means also this very delicate mother of pearl, not easy to shape, curved out in the exact same way. The finger choils that are in there. All of the satining that's been done after everything else was done. The jeweling, like I showed you the lock face, not left raw and nasty and ugly like everybody else's. The contouring here, just everything. And the action, ridiculous. Todd says this very well may be the quickest and smoothest action he's made on any Archangel. And that speaks volumes because he's made quite a few Archangels. I do know that out of the 3 that I've handled, including this one, this is the fastest and snappiest of those 3. And the lockup sound is incredible. But to me, it's easy to justify the price when you know the level of work that's gone into this. And when you've seen, obviously, like I've seen his workshop and seen how he works, it's almost a bargain. Because you know what? If this was another premier maker that was more worried about maybe his cachet in the industry, might be charging about $3,000 for something like this. Todd looks at it like this. Yeah, I could charge more, but why should I? I'm making a comfortable living, doing it at the prices that I'm doing it at. People are getting what I think is a good value. It makes them happy, and that makes me happy, period. There's no need to overcharge. And I love that philosophy, man. Now, there is an option that unfortunately I was unaware of until after we had finalized everything with this knife. I started goofing around on his Facebook page and looking around, and he put a video up way back when of a double action variation. Now, I didn't know he did this. Now, this is not a standard double action where there's a button somewhere or a scale release or a bolster release. The way he did his double action, remember what double action means? It means it's an automatic that can also be fired manually. And the most fun type of double action is the type where it cannot be seen that it's an automatic. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about and why. Well, what he does is a clip release. So when you squeeze the clip a certain way, it's not like it's going to accidentally fire when you're pulling your knife out. When you squeeze your clip a certain way, this thing just comes screaming out of the handle in the automatic sense. It is mind-blowing. So I'm considering getting back on his list. And, you know, it's over a year. It's about 2 years wait that you're going to wait at this point. I'm thinking about getting into his double action because how cool would that be? Just for the novelty of having, you know, that hidden little thing. But to know that he's done it in his clip, the release is nowhere near the pivot where you would expect it to be. It really is astounding what he's able to accomplish. Now, I do want to get one thing out before I talk any more about the knife. When you want to look at the body of his work and learn more about him, go to FischerCustomKnives.com. It's Fischer, FischerCustomKnives.com. If you go to Fischer Knives or Todd Fischer Knives or something like that, what you're going to land on is a page that is not owned or managed by him at all. There is some Chinese people out there that are making knockoffs that actually bought that domain name. Todd found out about it, and he even reached out to them and said, hey, you know, not cool. Probably shouldn't do something like that. And they basically sent him an email back. You know, I'm paraphrasing here, but kind of like, screw you. We're going to do whatever the hell we want to do. So there are going to be a ton of fakes out on the market with garbage quality, and they're going to have a website that has a name that would make you think you are buying it from Todd. You are not. So again, please make sure anytime that you're referencing his stuff, it's FischerCustomKnives.com, or go through one of the many dealers that you're going to see with his knives. Nth Degree Knives, I know, has carried his knives. Arizona Custom Knives certainly has as well. I am unaware of any others that have any direct dealings with him, but he can always let you know himself. So here, let's get a nice last look at this before we go. For those wondering, how do I really feel about it? I am on cloud nine. This has been an amazing beginning of 2014 for me. I got my Jaros Model 100 just 2 days ago. That thing is an absolute work of art. This is an absolute work of art. It's been a pretty damn good year so far. And this is the new direction that I'm taking my collection in. Less of the, I don't want to say standard or basic, but less of the knives that you could have bought from any number of makers. And something, with each purchase, there's going to be something special about the knife, whether it's completely handmade or it's a particularly special system that's built into it. I just talked to Stan Wilson yesterday or day before, just a quick email, when I found out about his non-flipper flipper. And I said, are you ever gonna make another? And if so, can I please get on that list for whenever it is? He's like, yeah, absolutely. You know, so there's one. I mean, yeah, the $5,000 knife, but with what he's done, he has completely revolutionized the flipper market by making a flipper that has no flipper on it. And if you haven't seen it, just search YouTube, you'll find it. So that's where I'm taking my direction this year. There's a lot of great knives that I'll probably pick up along the way, but my goal is to do knives that are as perfect can be. Something that every single one that you look at, you go, wow, I can't believe what I'm holding in my hands. And this is certainly going to be one of those great additions. Something I'll be carrying with me very, very often. This will be an everyday carry piece for me. And something that I'll probably have the rest of my life. There she is, man. The Archangel by Todd Fischer. I will put a link to my original video if you'd like to see it. It will give more in-depth background on Todd, his philosophies, and how he makes his knives. And you'll get to see a much less dressy variation of this same knife. For now, though, I'm going to go. Thank you guys for watching as always. I'll be back with something else special really soon.